Hey guys, my name is Jonathan Reich. I'm a licensed CPA in the state of Louisiana. And because I'm a CPA, I get to help small businesses with everything from hiring their first employees, working through payroll tax, helping them pay their first year of income tax, then things, ultimately settle out. I'll help them run their profit and loss, their balance sheet, keep up with who owes you, what you owe to others, things like that. And so that's like day one and midlife stuff of a business. But what happens whenever you're like tired of running your business? You wake up and you're just like, "Ugh, this is such a drag," or, I've made all the money I'm going to make. I'm now happy with where I'm at. I don't feel the need to go ahead and get up and hit that grind every day. There comes a time when it's time to not throw in the towel, but there comes a time whenever it's time for you to consider to sell the business. And so, I'm with them from when they set up to helping keep things as they run, and then ultimately they come to me and they say, "Hey, I want to know what everything's worth. I want to sell it." And so there's different ways you can go about selling your business. If you haven't made any net income in a while, obviously, if you've got like a shop and trucks and equipment and inventory, you can sell that for what the market value is, put the money in your pocket, pay off what you owe, and that's that. But what if your business is making money? What if it's kind of lucrative? What if you've got a very good setup, it's consistently generating income? You're not just going to sell it for the parts. You're going to lose a ton of value because you're giving up your goodwill, you're giving up customer relationships, you're giving up relationships with vendors, you're giving up your employees. And so it may be wise to use a business broker. And today I wanted to talk about two different online business brokers and compare them and see kind of where they're a little different and where they're a little similar. And so the first business broker is called Flippa, which kind of sounds like Flipper. You ever heard of someone who's like a house flipper or like someone who does resale? That's kind of what I equate to Flippa. And then the other is QuietLight. And they both are online business brokers, but they both go about the process in two totally different ways, in my opinion. So, a little bit more about Flippa. It's basically like a high volume auction house. That's how I would describe Flippa. They had anything from software as a service to e-commerce to content affiliate apps, domains, communities. There's a lot of like online businesses that you can use with Flippa, and that's kind of their bread and butter. So there's just a ton of different things out there under this like one umbrella. And that's if you're just kind of interested in like surfing and seeing what's out there, definitely check out Flippa and get on there. But it's going to be a listing format, typically an auction. You're going to go through a verification process if you are going to use the platform, and then it's going to show like the process, such as inputting personal details that only you are going to know. You're going to be vetted. You're going to have to show that you have funds to close and that you are who you say you are. And then Flippa uses escrow.com so that any payments between you and the buyer, like if there's earnest money or something like that, uh, it's in a safe and secure portal, essentially. So it's like buying a real business in person with like a lawyer. There's going to be a vetting process. You're going to have money going to escrow. You have to find the business that you want. It's a lot less white glove service, in my opinion, than what you'll get with QuietLight. There is some basic advisory beyond the open marketplace. They do market an M&A service so that if you need help kind of digging through the deal and seeing, does it make sense for me to buy this business? They'll give you that support if you want it. So, how much is it going to cost to use Flippa? There's going to be different rates depending on the size of the deal. There's also going to be an upfront fee. The diligence pretty much falls on you. There's tons of things to sift through, tons of filters, tons of different businesses for sale. And so you've kind of got the option to just surf, to do whatever you want. But don't skip on the due diligence. Don't skip on reviewing bank statements. Don't skip on looking at tax returns, things like that. If you're actually legitimately considering buying a business, don't trust anything, especially as a CPA that does financial statements. Like even I make mistakes. So if you're sinking tons and tons of money into a business, you need to make sure that you have proper guidance from a CPA, from a lawyer, from a broker who knows what they're doing. So, where I think Flippa really shines is if you want a large volume of transactions and you're looking for speed. You'll see a lot of deals, you'll see a lot of offers, there'll be a ton of things available on the marketplace for you to check out. Another place where Flippa kind of excels, in my opinion, is if you're trying to sell like a smaller asset. Like maybe your business doesn't bring in $15 million a year, and we'll see why I talk about that in a second. But maybe it's a little bit smaller. That's going to do really well at like an auction style house like Flippa. If you want to save money by DIYing your own due diligence, that way you can run a more lean review, less time sunk into it, less money, more risk, of course. Or if you want to have escrow and just make sure that everything is kind of built into one marketplace, Flippa is really going to be best for you. So now that we've talked about Flippa, let's jump to the other side of the aisle and talk a little bit more about QuietLight. QuietLight, in my opinion, is white glove services. It's a little bit more boutique. You're going to have folks who are holding your hand, which rightfully so, because this is probably one of the biggest decisions that you'll have ever made in your life. You're just going to get an experienced team who are going to help you navigate through the selling process. So the first thing about QuietLight is whenever you're looking to buy, you can sell on these platforms, but I'm primarily talking about either buying or selling on either platform. But whenever you get ready to buy or sell, you're going to have advisor-led prep. And so you get valuation guidance. You get somebody who kind of gives you a checklist of, all right, I'm getting ready to sell my business. What do you need? Okay, you need a couple of years of tax returns. You need a couple of audited financials. What's the net income? What are the things that you need to be looking for in a buyer if you're getting ready to sell your business? So your buyer, should they be comfortable signing NDAs? Should they just be given a review package? Do you make 50 copies of this and just hand it out to whoever's interested, or do you want to vet them a little bit? This platform is going to have an advisor that's going to help walk you through all that. Excuse me. And then after that, at closing, you'll get a purchase agreement. Everything will go into escrow, and then it'll close kind of like it would in person. And then the fees from the successful sale will come out of the total package. So like most brokerages, QuietLight is going to use a success-based commission rate. You're also going to have a one-time fee, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's about $899. And you can expect that brokerage cost to be around 10%. If you have a bigger transaction, like you're selling a larger, more successful business, that 10% is obviously going to decrease. So the other thing that I really appreciate about QuietLight is the advisor prep is really going to be a little bit more hands-on. There's not as many deals to sift through, or if you're selling, there's going to be a very large buyer's pool, but the advisor's prep typically moves with what you receive. So they're going to want to see a clean P&L. They're going to want to see any add backs explained or deductions from the P&L, what drives value for the business. If you're trying to sell something, you have to give the people who are interested this information. Otherwise, why would I write you a check for $3 million? It sounds very risky for me if I can't get a good explanation of what all your financials are showing me. So any risk that may be called out by the business, and just an order of operations that makes sense from introducing yourself to the buyer to handing over financials, signing NDA to closing. So the buy and sell experience, there's fewer listings on QuietLight, but in my opinion, they're more tailored. And so you have people who are going to actually be targeting on buying the business that you're selling. At least that's in my personal opinion, and kind of what I've seen in the past. The packages are going to be deeper. Your advisors are going to be super responsive because obviously they work on commission. It's very paced, and then if you value your time and want tons of context and not just someone handing you a stack of papers and saying sift through it. So both are going to be super, super trustworthy in terms of using identity checks. You're going to have to showcase that you are who you say you are, just like on Flippa. QuietLight's going to be the same. It's like closing and selling and buying a business in person. You You have to have the documents to say I am who I say I am who I say I am, um, and that I am not, trying to defraud whoever's selling the business or anything of that nature. So when should you use QuietLight? QuietLight is when you're going to want that white glove boutique service, an advisor-led process. If you've never bought or sold a business before, QuietLight's probably going to be a little bit better for you over Flippa, in my experience, just because it's going to be a lot less uh, from drinking like a fire hose, I guess you could say. It's going to be a lot of hand holding, and they're going to kind of guide you through the process and kind of explain to you what to expect next. You would also want to use QuietLight if your business is established and has good earnings. It's got good earnings without you at the helm. That is key, because if you're a significant driver of value, you're going to take a haircut on what you can get for when you sell your business. And then you want a competitive sales process that's super confidential with letters of intent and just exclusivity kind of like baked into the process. So, which one's going to get you the highest price? I guess it depends on what you're selling. If it's kind of like a website or app, you might want to check out Flippa just because there's a very large buyer pool. But if you have like a business that's more niche or is like boots on the ground, I would probably stick with QuietLight. They're both going to close within reasonable time periods. I see anywhere from 3 to 6 months typically. And then if you're on the buy side and you're considering using either platform, once again, it's going to be kind of what you're looking for. Are you looking for more narrowed, diligence-driven businesses, or you just kind of want to see what's out there and serve? That's going to be Flippa. But if you're kind of on that straight and narrow, and you're like, okay, I'm really hunting for a bargain, I want to make sure what I'm buying makes sense, definitely check out QuietLight. So the other thing is with QuietLight, your due diligence period, you're going to have a little bit more help with that than you would on Flippa. And so whenever you're getting ready to buy that business, you can feel a little bit more comfortable because you have business brokers who are there trying to ensure that you, I guess, are getting what you need to make an educated decision. So my final thoughts on either platform: if you're looking for something where you're comfortable running your own process and kind of surfing those deals and seeing what all is out there, check out Flippa, because it's going to have a ton of flexibility, a ton of reach. It's got the safety and security of using escrow.com. And then you can also have the choice between auction and fixed price sales. If you want to sell something quick or it's small, that's Flippa. On the other hand, if you want more of like a guided process, you want experienced advisors, QuietLight fits pretty well for that. Everything from the letter of intent to closing, packaging up the deal, and then buyer screening and getting cash in hand. QuietLight's going to help reduce wasted time. In my opinion, you're just going to be able to have a lot smoother close process. So if, like, for what I've recommended in the past, for most owner operators, established businesses, you're going to probably want that advisor-led route that QuietLight can offer, just because it's always good to have like a little bit of support in your back pocket. And that goes for more than just like me as a CPA or like your lawyer or any other advisors, consultants, business partners, people you have like mentors or anything like that. Unless you're in the business of brokering business, you should probably have someone who's there who does that day in and day out, so that you're not leaving money on the table, so you're not going through unnecessary heartache. And that is why I think QuietLight is going to be best for most of those small businesses. So anyway, guys, I know this was a longer one. Thank you for watching. I hope that you have a little bit of light shed on kind of a complex topic, and now you know a little bit more about each platform and what will fit best for you.